So I've been thinking about making this video for a while, but I guess I just was distracted by other things going on in my life. But when it comes down to feeling like there were maybe times when, I made a couple of mistakes in my life. It may have been actually triggered by drugs. So, and I'm not talking about marijuana. So, my experience with LSD occurred after I had gotten into state university in the state of New Jersey, and I started to go, I guess, to parties with my best friend there, and so we ended up meeting some guy friends who had a bunch of drugs at the party, and they had like Molly, they had LSD, they had marijuana, there were cigarette smoking. Everybody was partying pretty hard, and so I had met this guy that I started dating who exposed me to this lysergic acid type drug thing, I guess, which I didn't know. Like, I knew fairly well that it was something that I probably would risk even hanging out around, because it just wasn't really the kind of substance that I thought would be distributed to actually that part of the United States. That's, as a 33-year-old, I've met many people that were exposed to much, much harder drugs that I would never even, I never say never, but I would never want to take some of the kinds of drugs that other people have. I'm talking about a hallucinogenic right now. So this hallucinogenic substance, Arrowid in particular, was something that I was exposed to. And that part of New Jersey was full of educated, let's call us yuppies, who had some knowledge about which drugs were deadlier than others, and which ones just gave you the experience of hallucination. So that was more of like a hippie type of hallucination, I guess, type of party. But there were other people at that party that, were on cocaine. And I was not a part of that group. I was a part of the group that, met like, so anyway, I guess I just wanted to make a video discussing how having taken that type of substance may have altered some psychology, and have caused me to not be less ambitious, but it kind of rewired my brain to, I think, start over from scratch, literally, to start over from rebirth of like my ego as a human being. So when you're growing up in your childhood, you have a way of learning how to react to negative feedback from the world around you. So that's something that's learned. That's something that you learn how to manage as you get older, going from, childhood to adolescence into maturity and adulthood. or adulthood into maturity. And, having been in a 19, 18, 19, and 20-year-old who somehow became exposed to such a substance, I realized that there was some rewiring going on in my brain. And it was almost as if I had to start over and go back in time, and my ego was reborn, and I had to like get those years back and grow back into my right state of mind. So I think that there was a reason that I was exposed to that kind of thing, I suppose, but it also complicated my life a lot. And the complications that I'm talking about involve having a level of confidence that I lost. So when I talk about confidence lost, I'm talking about my entire ego, my entire personality being wiped out from my existence, and I got back to like the pure foundation of instinctual self as a human being, as a raw, young woman going into adulthood without an ability to filter everything that I've ever learned through my sieve of self conscientiousness and awareness. So somehow, before I took LSD, I was bleaching my hair, and I guess what I really wanted to do was I wanted to go to school and become a reporter. And so after having taken LSD, while I was going to the state university, so my family was diagnosed with cancer. Somebody in my family was diagnosed with cancer at that same state university. So I began linking the fact that I was going to that school to that diagnosis, because the hospital where my family was being treated for cancer was at the same university. So I started seeing correlations within the research at that state university having to do with human experiments. So I, at that time, this was back in like 2012, 2013, had no way to fully communicate, because I was basically migrating into the state over so that my mom could be closer to her job. But I had no way of understanding that I had just taken a life-altering substance. Like, things were just happening so quickly, and the move, and having to realize that caring for people was going to be completely different, in the family dynamics and everything, all happening at the same time. I don't know if it had to do directly with the drugs that I took or not. So that's why I wanted to make this video, because it was almost as if, I had all these friends that I was making in college after like a successful escape from, I guess, like a psychotic abusive relationship that I had successfully like worn. That's like a totally different story, but I had escaped. It's like being from one level of escape to a different kind of escape, and that kind of escape involved having to take a substance that literally took me away from this misconception that I was this abused victim into like, no, this is who you are now. you are a person who has been reborn, right? So having to be mentally reborn again, I guess, is very advantageous in some ways, because I easily forgot about what had happened to me in that relationship and in the relationships prior, um, that I guess I had suffered from, being a submissive female. And we can talk about virginities and all of that, um, in a private time, but basically, I was exposed to a substance that allowed me to regain experiences as a newborn, but as, like, an adult person who had just come out of adolescence. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to talk about that, and how it took about a decade for me to talk about this, even though it was something that was on the back of my mind for a long time. Um, yeah. And, I'm 33 now, and some of the relationships and connections that I've had with people, I've wondered if they would have been different had I never taken LSD to begin with. Had something developed more intensely, had, would this experience have even occurred had I never taken this drug? So I do feel like there were many times in life where, I had gone to job interviews, and there were certain places and locations where, like, oh, if it's fate and destiny and whatnot, where I've wondered if people have any control over their own actions, and whether the God above is giving us an opportunity to start over rather than completely go crazy and, lose our minds. And I think that I'm sort of grateful to have had a chance to, acquaint myself with people that, open doors and dimensions for me that I never thought I would be able to story tell later, in the now of life. So, I'm grateful for this life, and I'm grateful that I did have the opportunity to have had those experiences, and I've had that kind of, like, I guess, hippie advantage of, having, like, taken the drug or whatever. But at the same time, I sort of wish I never had. Like, I definitely wish I never had. And somebody, my former sister-in-law's brother, told me when I visited Ukraine, which is the country I was born in, to never take it, never take the drug. And he told me you're going to experience a lot of peer pressure later in life, and particularly that is something that you never want to take. But I did, and the people that I was hanging out with, it did inform me that you don't have to do this, but, I'll spot you, and I'm there for you, and this is what we're doing, and, and, this is a drug or whatever, but it's your choice. Like, you definitely don't have to trip with us. And, but I gave in to the peer pressure, and whether it has to do with the fact that I'm just, I'm a feminine supporter, and, like, I'm sort of like a submissive person, doesn't change the fact that that was a choice that I made, and people will continue to judge no matter what you did in the past. But everything is pretty much reactionary, and we're not in complete control over the alliances or clashes that occur. But we can try to be nice. We can try to get along with everybody and see the good in all human beings. Um, and forgive, I guess. But yeah, that's what I wanted to share.